Good evening, everyone, and welcome to This Week from Rockdale's. Excuse me, Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. I forget my name of my own show sometimes. Thank you for joining me. So I will watch it later. Happy Thanksgiving. Mary Boysworth, thank you. She's out of town, so I will be watching it later. Happy Thanksgiving. So I want to talk to everybody about a couple things here. So I'm going to say hi to everybody in the chat and remind you, please share, like the show so we can grow the audience because I think we got some interesting things we'd like to talk about this evening. And I think a lot of people out there would be interested in hearing about them. So, again, share, like the show. Let's build this audience so that people out here in Rockdale County can know what's going on in Rockdale County and we can share a wealth of information with each other. So it's very, very important that we do that. So let me start off by saying hi to some people in the chat tonight. Charlotte Geller, welcome to the show. Cheryl Moulton, welcome to the show. George Kelichek, I of the Taxpayer, welcome to the show. We got Cheryl Garcia, though that'll be Cheryl and Ben both, I'm sure, watching. Mary Boysworth, we have watching the show. Uh, and we have uh, Marie Withers watching the show. Dan Burks watching the show. Thank you guys for watching the show and for being loyal listeners and watchers of the podcast. So we appreciate our loyal audience, and like I said, invite somebody else to watch the show. Invite somebody in Rockdale County to watch and listen to Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox, so that we can all get a sense of what's going. Sarah Crawford, a good evening. Nice to have you on the show tonight, Sarah. Great for you to be here. So, guys, I mean, it's very important that in Rockdale County we have a way to share our thoughts and what we feel needs to happen in this community. So, like I said, this show gives people an option and a choice, and it gives them a way to do that. It gives them a way to voice their opinion about things. It gives them an opportunity to share their thoughts. It gives them an opportunity to, guess what? Speak their mind. That's right. Speak their mind. Bill Campbell, great to have you on the show tonight, Bill. Great to see you here. So guys, been an interesting week, I think, with some things going on out there. Danielle Munoz, welcome to the show, Danny. Great to have you here on the Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox show, and it is great to have my friend from the far north, the frigid far north, Danielle Munoz. Great to have you, Danny, on the show tonight. So, guys, I want to talk to you about a couple of things here. So, the the report came out, about the biolab thing here that was interesting, and they talked about you know some conditions that had existed over there prior to the fire, and it was issued by the federal agency that monitors these things, and they had reported that months before this incident occurred, that they had been smelling chemical smells over there, so they had instituted a permanent fire watch team. Had already been in place because they had strong chemical smells they'd been smelling. So they had initiated a permanent fire watch team, right? And this was months before this incident occurred. And the fact that that they felt that there was possible danger and possible conditions that were existing that they needed to have a permanent fire watch team in place shows that that they knew that maybe their safety protocols were not up to standard, and the risk of something happening was very strong. So, guys, I mean, this biolab thing, it's ridiculous, it's crazy, and it is just insane that this community has to tolerate uh, this kind of nonsense. So, I just, I don't like it. I don't think that it's fair for this community to have to continue to deal with the likes of BioLab. And in my opinion, BioLab does need to go away. BioLab does not need to be a partner with Rockdale County in business any longer. And that's my strong opinion that the BioLab needs to go away. And that's the way I feel about that topic. So I don't know if any of you want to talk about a couple of things that. Good evening, Corliss Turner. Welcome to the show. Hannah Lloyd, welcome to the show. Uh, but Charlotte Gillard needs some bad actor state legislation and federal legislation. I agree with that, Charlotte. Sure enough, do. Sure enough, do. So the Board of Education had a meeting this week, and I found it very interesting. They talked about, I mentioned 581, going to do their due diligence, do some training for the board members, and let the board members know, about the training that was taking place. I was at a training and was not able to attend the training that the public was invited to, and I was informed after I contacted the powers to be first about them having a training, me not being invited and such. I mean, aware that there was I had a conflict with my new school board training, but I should have been reached out to first instead of me doing the reaching out, and that's concerning to me. It's concerning that the new board is going to be the entity that makes the decision the first of the year about 581, and a pivotal player was not reached out to by the entity, but I had to do the reaching out. And that is very disturbing. So I do want to interrupt the show for 1 minute. Alex McDonald just entered the show. Today is his birthday, and we want to, from the Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox show, wish Alex a very happy birthday. And thank you for everything that you do for Rockdale County, Alex. And I'm not doing that in the way that the former soon-to-be chairman does it from the board pedestal there. Mine is sincere. Thank you for everything that you do and everything you highlight and bring to light in the county. And you've been doing it for years with me, as we've been, when we think something's important, we speak out. So thanks, Alex, and thank you for continuing to speak out when things are not right in Rockdale County with what's going on. So happy birthday and thank you for everything you do. But like I said, I was just concerned about that the educational thing that happened with the board on Tuesday, and then they had their meeting on Thursday, and there was a very interesting event. Yeah, Corliss, I contacted them prior to Thursday, and they did reach out to me and let me know they videoed that, and I could watch the video. That did happen, but the week before, I had contacted them and told them I was not happy with the fact that they had not reached out and informed me, and and it was a conflict with my training and such. But I'm just letting you guys know I'm full disclosure about that kind of stuff. Let's be real and transparent about it. And what I would like to have seen is in the board comment section of the board meeting, I would like to see the board actually discuss something. And not on the board right yet, guys. I'm a board member elect, so I can be a little more vocal about these kind of things. So this is what I intend to do when I'm on the board. I intend to use board comment for the board to be able to discuss things in public that the public wants to hear about. So yeah, Tina's saying that Oates had told, which I was also told that he said that, and that's fine. And I have had a chance to go look at the training, and I actually at the training I was at this week, they spoke on 581, and at the training I was at 2 weeks ago, they talked about 581. But I've done a lot of research on 581 myself. I have done. I've reached out to the authors of the legislation, reached out to the lieutenant governor's office. Well, I went, heard the tax assessor talk about it. I've heard Teach the Smart Washington talk about it. So I've heard, a lot of information, and I've done additional research on 581. And just so there's no misunderstanding of my position personally, my position personally is to stay in 581. When I'm on the board, I will discuss the fact that I do not intend to vote to opt out, that I believe the taxpayers of Georgia, and specifically the taxpayers of Rockdale County, voted for this legislation to be enacted, and it is their will, and it is not my job to actually circumvent or bypass the citizens and the voters when they vote for a constitutional amendment or something to be changed. It is not my job as an elected official to do a workaround and change the decision of the voters. The voters have spoken. They have spoken loud and clear that they want this floating homestead exemption, and it's my job now to figure out how to work around that. It's my job to not work around it, but to work with it, to actually, once this is passed, what it does to the board finances and what the board has to do to be able to still provide a quality education for the children of Rockdale County when this legislation is enacted, and I believe it will. I believe you'll have enough board members that will realize that this was the will of the people, and that they do not have the will, the authority to do that. And just saying this, let's say that the board does decide, and you've got enough people that opt out, then you the taxpayers, it's up to you to decide whether you want those individuals to be back on the board again or not. Be honest with you, as a voter, I probably won't vote for anyone who votes to opt out. That just my, and that's my right. I can work with people and not agree with them, and I can work with people and not vote for them. That's my prerogative. I'd say that there are several board members on the board now didn't vote for me, right? And that's a fair assessment. And I don't hold that against them. They had the right not to vote against me. I mean, I know they didn't vote for me because they were out there at West Avenue holding campaign signs for one of the individuals that was running in the race that wasn't me. So I'm fine with that. Fine with people supporting who they want to support. That's fine and dandy. It's part of politics. I found it interesting. What the training that I went to this week, they said you have to keep politics out of education, out of the board office and stuff. You are talking about 7 people on a board who are elected officials and run for office every 4 years. So, when they say you can keep politics out of it, that's probably one of the most ridiculous comments I have ever heard made in my life, because everything local is political. All politics stem from the local level. So when people make ridiculous comments like that, you have to question their ability to actually read the room and know what's going on. So there were over 100 new board members that were there at that training that will be taking office in January across the state of Georgia, new Board of Education members. You were telling over 100 people who just ran for elected office in a political process that your job's not political. And these were from bureaucrats, administrators who did not run for office and do not answer to voters. And they tell you, don't answer to voters. Make your decision not answering to voters. And that is some of the most ridiculous um, things that I think I've ever heard in my life. Uh, uh, William Campbell, exactly. You question their motive, and and I do question their motive. You've got an organization, the Georgia School Board Association, that represents school board members, and the majority of the individuals representing the school board members are former superintendents. So I ask you just out there and put some comments in there. If you've got the majority of an organization that's representing school board members that's former superintendents, what perspective or what angle are they looking at it from? Are they looking at it from a school board member perspective, or are they looking at it from a school board superintendent perspective? Just being real about it, because that makes sense to me, right? Makes total sense to me. That's what I look at it as. You know, it is what it is. Of course, you asked the question about leasing vehicles rather than owning them. My thing would be I don't mind owning the vehicles. Let's just own a lot less of them. I think we actually own too many vehicles. So let's look at owning less vehicles. Don't mind owning them versus leasing, but would like to own far less vehicles. That would be my opinion about that. Just own far less vehicles. Uh, the way I look at it. So, but they brought up the 581, and we talked about they talked about that, and we're going to do continued training, and I do hope that I'm reached out to before trainings are offered. That was one of the things that one of the persons presenting at the training, I said that, and we attended this week, that said that any decision that would be made by the new board that's coming into office, he said, I would hope that your superintendents would include you that are in this room in any trainings or any educational pieces that they're bringing forward, because you need to be in those seats, because you need to be well informed, because you will be part of that decision making process after the first of the year. And it is vital that you come in ahead of the game and are aware of uh, things that are going on. So that was interesting, right? So but the training was interesting. I did find out a lot of information between the last 2 weeks of listening to the finance and the budgeting. I'm even more concerned about the last couple of years of the budgeting process here in Rockdale County, and the county and the Board of Education, and having to go into funds balance 2 years in a row to balance the budget, and depleting the funds balance to a point that the Board of Education had to take a TAN, which is a tax anticipation note, to cover them from September, October, November till they start getting their tax payments in December. Because usually what a healthy school board does is they have enough funds balance in reserve that they're able to actually get through that lean season of tax collections with their funds balance and not take out a loan. So it's concerning if you're having to take out a note to do that, because it shows that you do not have a sufficient amount of expendable revenue in reserve to handle an emergency or an unforeseen expenditure that might arise. So there are limited ways that a board can handle those kind of issues. And I'd come to the board meetings next year, and we'll discuss those things, because those things need to be discussed in open forum, so that you, the public, understand the dynamics of funding, how the thing is going. Yes, Charlotte, I'm glad you did bring that that number up. The funds balance was a negative 933,000, which is pushing a negative $1 million. It was also negative the month before. Also, the funds balance was so, but just so we know, the county, the Board of Education was not broke. They do have money to cover stuff because they had the loan. So they did get their $6 million loan, which is carrying them until they get the bulk of tax revenues that'll be coming in December and January. So so that $6 million will carry them. But last year and the year before, and even going previous years, the BOE did not have to get a tax anticipation note because there were sufficient funds balance to cover the lean months of tax collections. So so I find it interesting. Like I said, just those things were interesting. And then also there was another thing that occurred. I find it interesting because the week before I was asked at the town hall I had about graduation, and did I feel graduation should continue to happen in DeKalb County at New Birth, or did I think we should bring graduations back to Rockdale County? And George put it up there. I'm actually getting ready to talk about that and the graduation. And I answered the question at the forum that I felt that graduations should occur in Rockdale County, but I was one person, and that was something that the board would have to decide, and it was something we would decide after the first year, because I knew it wasn't decided until January or February, is what I had just in my mind recollected when I was having the town hall 2 weeks ago. And lo and behold, what happened? This past Thursday at the board meeting, which they had not discussed it the week before, and they did not do a presentation on it, but under new business items, what was just, I don't know, what was just popped out there, as a surprise item on that agenda, it was the graduation to be held at New Birth. And just going to talk about a few things here about the cost of that, right? So 2 years ago, it was $45,000. Last year, it was $54,000. This year, it will be $90,000. So the price from 2 years ago has went from 45, 54 to 90. And that is a significant jump in a 2 year time span, from 45 to 90. So I think my personal thing is, I think, if we look at last year, this happened in January. They did the this past year they took that vote on January the 11th. So that was January the 11th. So they pushed that a whole 2 months up, right? So they, instead of January of next year, they did that November of this month. Do you think that may have anything to do with a changing dynamic of the board that's going to happen in January, and a fear of that may not have got the necessary votes that it would need in January? Do you think that was what one would call a preemptive strike to do that? So, that's very interesting. So I don't want just talk a little bit more about the cost and who pays that. So, and we were told, the board, I think the board was told, and the citizens have been told, that tax dollars are not used to pay that fee, that those are graduation dues. Those are dues that are paid by the students. And I just want to do a little bit of history in Rockdale County about the wealth. Let's just say the wealth of Rockdale County residents. So this starting of this school year, the Rockdale County school system qualified for a grant from the Department of Agriculture that all kids in Rockdale County will get free lunch, because the county's going to get a reimbursement. The Board of Education will. So, and to be able to get that grant, you were identified as an area of high poverty. So That means if you're identified as an area of high poverty, then that would indicate that your student population, their parents, that a majority of them are high poverty, and they live in poverty. They have financial struggles. So we're saying that the parents can't afford to buy lunch for the kids, but we can afford to charge them enough dues that they can pay for a $90,000 graduation venue. Just think about what I said. Okay, let it marinate. We qualified for a area of high poverty to get a grant to qualify for free lunch for every student in Rockdale County. But we're able to charge enough dues to those same parents who can't afford lunches for their kids to be able to pay a $90,000 fee to hold a graduation in a facility out of Rockdale County. Let that sink in. Think about just the optics of that and the narrative of that. I mean, don't you think that if the board is going to authorize a $90,000 expenditure of anything like that, that there needs to be an open, transparent conversation at that board meeting? Don't you think that if we're going to spend $90,000, especially when the optics of we're saying that Rockdale County parents struggle to buy lunches and we're expecting them to pay for a $90,000 graduation, and we do not feel it's necessary to have an open conversation about that? What do you think about that? And they say it's all about Cordis, you're right. They say it's all about the students, all about that. It's convenient to say it's about the students when you want to put your angle at whatever your angle is, or you don't really understand what that means. And I really think it's sometimes people don't understand what that means. They just don't think they understand what that means. They just don't think about what it means. So, guys, I think there are alternatives. There were alternatives, but I think a couple of things happened here. It was like, hurry up and pass it before January, before there is a change of reflection on the board. Hurry up and pass it and put it on the agenda at the last minute. Catch people by surprise so there can't be a conversation. So what do you think, guys? I mean, you've all put comments out there. To me, I mean, and I can speak candidly about this stuff right now, really about this stuff until the first of the year. Once I get on the board, I will be limited to what I can discuss openly like this on this show. But come to the board meetings. There's a thing called board comment that is not utilized at this moment that I will utilize. I intend to utilize the board comment time to talk about things like I'm talking about right now. We're going to do it on the board. You will not hear me talking about this stuff on the show. You'll hear me talking about other aspects, other county. It'll be promotional stuff. Now, I may have guests come on the show and talk about issues regarding the board, and I'll listen, right? But it won't be me doing the talking on this show like I am right now. But I'll have guests most likely come on who will be able to to talk about things. Just so you know, that portion of government is not going to be left out of being covered on this show. We'll have guest hosts come in and be able to discuss those issues where I won't be able to, but we will have guest hosts that will be able to come in and do that. So, you know, I just think there are other options. Um, can I read our remarks? Are you talking about reading the remarks in the future? Dan, I would prefer not to do that in the future. And what I will do, like I said, when it's anything that's sort of controversial with the Board of Education, and it's something that needs to be discussed on a forum like this, I'll have people come in and talk about. And actually, a good friend of the show, and y'all all know him. He's having a birthday today. He's actually told me that he'd be more than willing to if there are issues regarding education that he feels I can't talk about, he's more than willing to step up and do a little bit of talking about education when the need arises. And then, some of you would not mind at all. Some of you do guest spots on the show and come and cover the education segment. Would not mind that whatsoever. Actually would welcome it. And, I think you guys would do a great job of it, of doing that. So that's my thought. I've thought about this and what I would do and how I would handle it, and it will be handled. And you guys aren't going to miss out on anything. Everything will be well covered. And again, come to the Board of Education meetings, starting, come to them now. But next year, start coming to those things. Start listening to the dialogue that the board has about things that are happening. I've already said, I intend to have my town halls, right? I intend to have my town halls a Tuesday before the Thursday meeting. And part of our ethics code that we sign is if citizens come to us about something, it's my responsibility to report it to the board and the superintendent. Well, I'm going to do that. When you guys come and I listen to you on that Tuesday, that Thursday, I'm going to put it on the agenda that I want to talk about concerns that the citizens had and brought to my attention at a board meeting, at a town hall. And we're going to address them and let the board and the superintendent know about it that following that 2 days later. And I am going to, that way I'm in compliance with my ethics code. Citizens can comment. Charlotte, you're 100% correct. We'll put that up here, right? Citizens can come in on HB 581 next month at the BOE meeting. And that will be great for them to be able to do. Citizens need to let their voice be heard. They need to tell people how they feel about what's going on. And, guys, it's very important to do that. George, you sent me an email today about the impact of what 581 is going to have on the counties, and it is going to have on the different entities, right? It is going to have a significant impact tax-wise. So it is going to make us think about every dollar we spend and how we spend it, and cut some spending, and and look at those dollars. So 100% right. I mean, and that's what it's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to just think more clearly about the dollars that we're going to spend. We're going to have to just think that stuff out clearer to make sure that it makes sense, to make sure we're being responsible for the taxpayers' dollars. And the first thing, just be honest, at the board, the first thing they'll say is, it's for the kids. It's for the kids. 1,000%, guys. Education is for the kids. It's educating children so we have a future. So we have an educated citizen that can make great decisions and be the future leaders of tomorrow. But You can't finance and fund a system today that will bankrupt and force elderly people and those who are struggling financially out of their homes. You can't do that. So you have to balance that on what you're going to, on how you're going to raise those finances, things you're going to spend money on, and you have to really think about what you're going to do and how you're going to spend those money. George Kelichek had sent me some other information, which I knew a lot of this information. Sent me some information today, that, regarding housing in the United States, that 30% of the housing in the United States today is 55 and older. They own property, and that's higher than it was decades ago, because what was happening decades ago was people would move out of their homes, they would go to retirement communities, they would do other things. Now they're deciding to stay in their homes for that elder care as they get older, and not transition. So they're doing that. And not only that, but we find that those 55 and older actually own 60% of the housing wealth in America today. And what we find also is the further south, that in the below the Mason-Dixon line, that the state is, that the more seniors own homes, the farther north, the less, because you've got seniors relocating to the warmer in climates, is Georgia, Florida, Alabama. That's happening. So states like Georgia have a higher occupancy of individuals in that own homes after 55 than northern states, and that's just something we've got to look at, right? So as we have an aging population, because of baby boomers and such, it's something we're going to have to look at, and we're going to have to look at, how do we continue to finance local governments and board of educations, and not tax senior citizens out of home ownership. It's a challenge. It's something we need to look at, and it's something that that you as stakeholders and individuals who become public servants who you vote for, it's a conversation we all have to have, and realize that we may end up having to make some tough decisions together. But it'll be tough decisions we discuss and make together. And you're not just gaslighted and told, well, there's nothing we can do about it. It's because the assessor assessed those properties, and we're not raising your taxes. It's just your property went up so much. Now they've introduced legislation that's going to keep your property from escalating like that. Now they don't like it because they don't have that excuse, and now they don't think it's fair, right? They don't think it's fair. Well, taxpayers didn't think it was fair that they were being gaslighted, and that they were being told, well, there's nothing we can do about it because it's your property values. Well, the legislature introduces legislation that does something about property values, and now you've got the other side calling foul. And then they gave them the ability to opt out. Well, in my opinion, any entity that opts out, those who opt out, then you, the voters, you need to take action, and you need to opt them out when they come back up on the ballot. I mean, let me ask you guys, let's just be transparent in here. If someone on one of these boards votes to opt out, and it does get opted out, are you going to consider that the next time you vote? Are you going to consider the fact that they voted to opt out of legislation that was going to be favorable to you, the taxpayer, on home ownership? Let's see it. I'm going to be upfront about you. I will not be voting for anyone who votes to opt out. Just point blank, because I'm not only a newly elected official, but I'm a taxpayer and I'm a voter just like you, right? And that's going to be my prerogative to have that opinion, right? So I am definitely going to hold anyone accountable who says they want to opt out of a piece of legislation that the majority of Georgians voted to support and expect their local representatives to honor their decision and not do this. Well, we know what's better for you than you. There's nothing I can do about that. I mean, I've got everything turned on overlay, Cheryl. So it's the system is what the system is. So, guys, I'm just telling you right now, you have got the ability to impact this. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you guys don't start going to that board meeting, the Board of Education meeting, letting them know what you think, you guys march up to that Board of Commission meeting all the time, and their budget is nowhere near the Board of Education. They spend nowhere near the money the Board of Education does. And you guys march on the Board of Commission all the time, and the Board of Education budget is far more than the Board of Commission budget, right? So come on, let's what's my opinion regarding locations of the graduation? This is what I would like to see, Walter. I would like to see the board try to negotiate with Springfield Baptist to get the graduations over at Springfield. And I'll tell you this, and I do know this for a fact, that when that was Church in the Now and they had graduations over there, I do know the Church in the Now did not charge for it because they looked at it as an act of community service. Do know that. Spoke to one of the pastors today that was at Church in the Now at that time, and he was talking to me about that and said that, in their board meetings they talked about it, and they decided it was given back to the community. And I know they've had some at Springfield, not certain what they've done, but I don't have a problem with compensating a facility like that to do something like that, and I think we should. But when you've got a facility that you started off 2 years ago and it was $45,000 and it's went to $90,000 now, then you might need somebody else being able to negotiate that deal. I mean, I'll volunteer to do it. I negotiate deals on a daily basis. I guarantee you, I wouldn't have agreed to that kind of pricing. Don't mind helping the negotiating either. So, hey, sign me up, coach. I'm ready to go in. Take me off the bench. I'll go and negotiate that deal for you. And man, we wouldn't have been paying $90,000. Just tell you, well, or we would have left the table. Just you can't let somebody take you from 45 to 90 in a 2-year time period and think in any way that's a fair assessment when at 1.45 and then the next is 2 years later 90. You 45, 54, 90. I've all heard about all this new math and everything, but that I don't even add up in new math. So that's what I like to see. But there, and you're right, Charlotte. I'm gonna put Charlotte's comment up here right now. Replying, there were no options given to the board, and there was not a discussion about it, and that's true. Corliss, yes, it's time to redirect our attention to be seem to have lost their minds. Well, Charlotte, I think Charlotte and Corliss, I just think they're just used to nobody questioning any of their decisions, right? I went to this meeting over here and they gave awards and certificates and recognized some folks, and it was a full room. As soon as the awards and the certificates were given out, there were 3 people in the audience. There were 70, 80 people. There were 70 or 80 people in the room prior to the actual, meeting and agenda items started being covered. But, once the awards and the recognitions were done, everybody left, and there were three citizens left in the room. And that's the reality of what goes on at those meetings. You just do not have people showing up at them. And that's, and that's what you need, for anybody to be held accountable. You have to have people watching, right? For anybody to be held accountable, you need to be held accountable, and that's where That's why I think some of the decisions aren't being made properly is because nobody's there providing oversight. Nobody's holding the accountability there. Um, and I, as a new incoming board member, welcome accountability, and I welcome you to come. And someone just put something in the chat telling you guys when the school board meeting is, because I know Sandra Jackson Lett, and she does not mind accountability either. And she welcomes you to come to these meetings also, right? She welcomes you to come to these meetings also, because she is someone who also recognizes there needs to be accountability. And thank you, Sandra, for putting those dates up there. Excuse me, for people to come to. So that's what we all need. We all need accountability. And how do we get accountability? We get accountability by people coming, watching, speaking out, and telling us what they want us. Now we don't think that's a good idea, and speak about it. And a couple of things I would love to see the board make a change about something, right? So I would love the board to change the way that we do the speaking thing. I would love and you already have the ability to speak about an agenda item, but I would love the public comment to be broken up into two sections. And I think I talked to Janice about it, and I think she intends to introduce this over at the Board of Commission. But there'll be a 3-minute before at the beginning that's just on agenda items. You just speak on agenda items, and then the 3 minutes. There would be 3 additional minutes that someone could speak at the end of the meeting on just general public comment. But I think it needs to be broken into those 2 segments. So I think that they need to have that agenda items only the first beginning of the meeting, and then general public comment at the end. Because I think when you're going to vote on items, people need to come up and say, hey, you're going to vote on this today. This is an item you're going to decide. And this is what I would like this is my thought as a citizen, why, or I support it or why I don't support it. No, I think they're, all they have is 2 meetings. I think Sandra, I think they're going to have one the 5th and the 19th, because there may be a conflict with the 12th, Sandra, and you can comment if you're still here. There may be a conflict or something, so they're going to have one on the 5th and the 19th instead of the 12th and 19th. So, I mean, that's just my opinion about it, guys. So, I am very happy that we've had this kind of encounter, this kind of engagement tonight. So, but no, there are 2 meetings this month, and they are the 5th and the 19th. And they will alter a meeting at the BOE sometimes and do it on a different date than the 2nd or the 3rd if there's a conflict. So I think that's what it is. I think there's a conflict. So they're doing it on the 5th and the 19th. So, if you guys don't if you guys don't like the fact that they did this graduation thing, then come speak about it, right? The BOE will hold their annual board conference on the 12th. Thank you, Sandra, for clarifying. See, I always say if there's a conflict, then they will change those. And that should be publicized on the website, and I think it is. They do have those publicized. So I think you can go look at the website and go look at that and see, what those are. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sandra, one of the first things we do as a new board on that first meeting in January is set the calendar for the meetings coming up the next year. If I'm not mistaken, that we will set the calendar moving from the next year from to that January to January. It is. Sandra says it is. So the board will actually set the calendar for the next 12 months. It'll be from February to January, because this January's meetings have already been set last year. So the new board comes in, and one of the things they will do this year as we take office is set the calendar for the next year. So, just learning the process, learning what goes on. but really want to see you guys at these meetings. Really want to have your input and really want to know what you think is going on. So Corliss said the legislator meeting yesterday was only talk was about the PFA. So a lot of people were angry about the PFA because why were they angry? They were angry because nobody listened. Nobody was listening to them. Nobody was listening to them at all, right? So that's the way it is. Corliss, I think maybe it's the planning commission that is interfering with the board meeting. It's in conflict with the board. So why don't we get the planning to change theirs? Because I think their meeting is actually the meeting that's in conflict with the board meeting. Just my opinion about that. So just Corliss already said she might be smacking me if I talk back at her in the show. She just said she's gonna get me. So don't get me, Corliss. Don't get me. So guys, and the board has always met on the second and third Thursdays of the month, and they will do an occasional alteration if there's a conflict within the board schedule. So, I mean, and that is, the board has always met on the second and third Thursday. So, is what it is. So, I'm going to put this up here with what Avi said just now. I wrote Dr. Oates. He stated Spring did not have the capacity. He also said that he made the decision. So that's right. He made the decision, right? And interesting. And that's one of those quagmires. Is that his decision to make, or is it a team government? Because that's one of the things they talked about at that meeting thing the other day about not surprising anybody with just surprise things. And then when I saw that on there, I said, well, that violated the team governance rules that they say board members need to do. Never surprise the superintendent. Then I'm thinking, well, does that only work one direction? The board can't surprise the superintendent, but he can surprise the board anytime he wants. And do we really think it's a good practice for the superintendent to decide to spend $90,000 without first talking to the board about it and his decision, and expecting the board just to rubber stamp an idea that he has? And, just saying. So, I'm going to talk about this recommend to the board thing, right? So when you take this training, you're told, even though it's a recommendation, you're advised by these entities, even though it's a recommendation, you should never vote down a recommendation, because you're being advised by the expert. So you're told at these trainings to never contradict a recommendation of the superintendent. But the superintendent, thank you, sorry, but why do we have a board that makes the decision? So, but the superintendent is allowed to contradict the board. I mean, I just see these things, right? I'm just asking these questions. These are questions I'm going to ask when I'm on the board. So, just get used to it. Kind of, if I hurt somebody's feelings, I'm going to apologize in advance for hurting your feelings. But I don't mean to hurt your feelings. I'm just a curious guy like that, and I like to ask questions. You can ask me any question you want to. Won't hurt my feelings. I go through hard negotiations every day. At least 3 times a week, I negotiate contracts. Know all about contracts. Can't wait to look at that contract that was signed or agreed on by the board the other day. There's always interesting clauses in contracts. Can't wait to see what kind of clauses is in that contract. Just saying. You know what I mean? Just saying. Well, guys, whoa, man, it's 8:57. I have ranted and raved and talked on this show for almost an hour now. I hope you guys have enjoyed enjoyed my conversation tonight as much as I've enjoyed the interaction that I have had with this group of individuals tonight. I surely have enjoyed the crosstalk, the dialogue. And you know what? Let me tell you something. The name of this show, Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. This is what I want to advise all of you and ask you to do. Speak your mind. Let your voice be heard, because that's the only way we can grow, and it's the only way we can make change in our community is by speaking our mind and let our voices be heard. Thank you, and until next week, I will see each and every one of you, and happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you next Thursday. And no, I won't see you Thursday. I'm not going to be here. I'll see you next Sunday at 8 p.m. on Speak